Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's fifth grade informative writing lesson. Today we will be doing Section 2, Lesson number 23. My name is Jennifer Jones, and I will be your instructor for this section of the writing curriculum. Super excited to be here with you all today because today we are embarking on a brand new writing journey. We are going to learn how to write an informative essay. Now, I know we're all super excited to jump into today's lesson, but let's take just a few moments and discuss how these lessons will flow. Over the next few weeks, I will teach you step by step how to write an informative essay. We will begin by learning how to analyze prompts and then how to plan. After that, we're going to jump into writing each paragraph of the informative essay, beginning with the introduction, then the middle paragraphs, and finally, the conclusion. Now, it's going to take us a few weeks to learn all of the different parts of an informative essay. And we're really just going to focus on one particular part or writing skill at a time. This is going to give us an opportunity to really dive deep into each skill and practice it over and over until we become comfortable with that particular writing technique. Once we feel comfortable, we will move on to the next writing skill. This is going to allow you to learn how to write an informative essay in an easy, non-stressful, and fun way. I will never ask you to do anything on your own unless you have already seen me model it and practiced it with me. So for that reason, most of our lessons will begin with a clear objective and then a modeling where I will show you exactly how to do the thing that we're focused on learning. We will move on to some guided practice after that, where we work together. Finally, most lessons are going to end with either a quick assessment or an independent practice activity. Now, these independent activities or assessments are not always tests. They're not gotcha moments. We're not trying to see what you can do and what you can't and yell at you if you haven't mastered everything. The purpose of these independent activities and assessments is for you as the writer, just as much as me as your teacher, to learn what it is that you are comfortable doing and you understand really well, and what information or writing skills are you still learning and may need a little extra practice, a little extra attention on. Please treat all of these independent activities and assessments as a chance for you to really understand yourself as a writer. Now, also for that reason, at the end of each lesson, they will be an opportunity for you to self-assess your own work, reflect upon what you did that day, and revise your writing before submitting it to your teacher or your parents. Now, it's very important that when we start learning how to write an informative essay, we approach writing with a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset is the belief that our skills and our brain and our abilities is something that we can improve upon through effort, attention, and hard work. You are not born as smart as you're ever going to be. You're not born knowing how to write, and that's all you'll ever be able to do as a writer. Writing, just like our brains, can be developed. So when we are doing the self-assessment and reflection process, I really want you to be thinking of yourself as a writer and assessing your own writing honestly. No one's going to see your self-assessment or hear what you say in your mind when you're reflecting except for you. It's going to benefit you the most and will help you to improve your writing the most if you are as honest as possible during this process. Keep in mind, you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, especially when we're learning something new. And that is not something to be embarrassed about or upset about, because mistakes are just proof that we're learning. Okay, so I want everyone to try their best and to be excited to learn something new. Take a chance, challenge yourself, be brave, put yourself out there. And if we make mistakes and stumble, that is to be expected and in fact even celebrated. We'll all be here to encourage each other. And I promise you, in just a couple of weeks, you are going to be absolutely blown away by the type of essay that you are going to be able to write. So let's get started. Each lesson is going to begin with a clearly stated objective or goal. This is what we really want to focus on learning throughout each day's lesson. So by the time this writing lesson is over, we want to be able to say, yes, I can do the thing that I said I was going to do at the beginning. Or at least I'm on my way to doing the thing that I said I was going to do at the beginning. So today's learning goal or learning objective is to learn about informative writing prompts. Up until this point, we haven't done any informative writing. So you may not be familiar with what informative writing is or what an informative writing prompt looks like. Today, we're going to get some really good understanding of both the structure of an informative essay and what an informative prompt sounds like. Now, informative writing is when you write with a specific purpose in mind. You're writing to inform your teacher about something. So I want you to think of informative writing as if you were the teacher and you're writing almost like a nonfiction book where someone can read your writing, read your completed essay, and learn something. Okay, so when we write this informative essay, we are going to make it chock full of information and facts. This is not the type of writing where we're going to tell stories. Okay, we're not going to make things up. We're not going to write about our past experiences. Our purpose during informative writing is to teach our reader and inform them about a very specific topic. Now, the topic we inform them about is going to be stated in the prompt. So that's why today, and even in our next lesson, we are going to focus just on how to analyze prompts. That way we're able to determine exactly what it is we're supposed to be writing about. We know our purpose, to inform, but we're going to be discussing through the through the analysis of the prompts. See, already making mistakes. Through the analysis of prompts, what it is exactly that the prompt is asking us to write about. Now, I want you to also keep in mind that informative writing is text-based, which means you are not expected to have all of the information in your head to tell the reader. The information you're going to write about is going to come from something you read. So before we begin writing an informative essay, we're going to read. We're going to read passages. These will be not too long in length, and you'll be expected to read 2, 3, or 4 different passages. All of the passages are going to be about the same topic. So you're going to read all this information, you're going to learn all of these things, and then you're going to write an informative essay where you inform your reader about the topic presented in the prompt. It's really quite simple, and it's going to be fun. So let's take a look at some informative writing prompts. Whenever we are reading a prompt, we know that there's some very special words, magic words, that let us know what type of essay we are expected to write. Now, we learned in our last section that these very special magic words are called keywords. Keywords are words that we look for in a prompt that will let us know we are being asked to write an expository, informative, opinion, or narrative. Now, the keywords for informative writing are explain. Sometimes you might see the word explanatory. Inform. Sometimes you might see informative, or teach. Now, I'm going to pause for just a moment in our prompts discussion and just remind you that if you have that writing notebook that you used throughout section 1, that writing notebook where you took down ideas and notes and information that'll help you when you write independently, this is the most perfect time to get out that writing notebook now. And I'd like you to bring that writing notebook to each and every writing lesson. In the notebook, we're going to jot down things that are important to remember, things that might help you in the future when you're writing on your own. So the first note that we're going to take today are the keywords for informative writing, and those you see on your screen: explain, inform, and teach. Now, if you need a few moments to copy this down into your notebook, please feel free to pause this lesson, take down your notes, and when you're ready to continue, simply press play. At any time, throughout any lesson, if you need just an extra little bit of time to finish your work, please feel free to pause. You can always hit play when you're ready to proceed. Now, let's look at what an informative prompt sounds like. We'll read it together. Your teacher has asked that you write a paper about Brazil. Write an informative essay about Brazil. Your essay must be based on the ideas and information from the passages. Okay, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? Now, whenever we're presented with a prompt, the first thing we need to do is to look for the keywords. So I'm going to go back to this prompt and I'm going to look for the keywords we just learned very carefully. I'm almost going to be like a detective when I read this prompt. Let's see, do I see any keywords? I do, right in the middle. I see the keyword informative. So this is very clear what type of essay this prompt is directing me to write about. It says write an informative essay. So I know that my purpose for writing is to inform my reader about a topic. Now, the second thing we want to ask ourselves when analyzing prompts is what topic? What is the prompt asking us to write about? So if I go back to the prompt, I notice that it says I should write about Brazil. I'm going to inform my reader about the country of Brazil. So what's this prompt asking me to write about? Brazil. I'm already intrigued. I can't wait to learn more about Brazil. And then after I learn, I teach my reader. Let's look at another one. Write an informative essay to present to your class about earthquakes. Use information from the passages in your essay. Question number one, we ask ourselves, what is the keyword? So take a moment and look at this prompt with me. See if you can find it before I do. Do you see it? It's right at the beginning. Write an informative essay. So again, our purpose is to inform or teach our reader about something in particular. So the question is, well, what is that something in particular? What are we being asked to write about? So let's go back to the prompt. We are being asked to write about, I see it. Do you see it? We're being asked to write about earthquakes. So after reading 2, 3, or 4 passages about earthquakes and learning all this really cool information, then we're going to write an informative essay where we inform or teach our reader all about earthquakes. So our essay would be filled with facts and information, details all about earthquakes. Our essay would not be a story about a time that we experienced an earthquake. Our essay would not be a story about a time we saw an earthquake on TV. Our essay is not going to be our opinion about whether we like earthquakes or we think they're scary. No, all of those examples are non-examples. Those are not writing for the correct purpose. Our purpose is to inform our reader about earthquakes. So this essay, again, would be filled with facts and information. Now we're going to look at another prompt, and this one is very similar to the one we just looked at. So I'm going to want you to read it very carefully with me, okay? Don't let it trick you. You have read 2 passages about the country of Brazil. There are many aspects of the Brazilian culture. Use information from the passages to inform and elaborate on the Brazilian culture and its cities. Interesting. So first thing, always we ask ourselves, what's the key word? So let's go back and look. Keywords. Let's see. We have a different keyword this time. I'm going to give you a hint. It's in the very last sentence of the prompt. See if you can find it. Do you see it? The keyword in this prompt is inform. Now, inform is just a different version of the word informative, but it still informs us as the reader of the prompt of what our purpose for writing is. Our purpose is to inform our reader about something. So that brings us to our second question. What is the prompt asking us to write about? Now, this one is a little bit different, so read it really carefully and get an answer in your head before we review. Okay, do you have an idea? This prompt is asking us to inform our reader about Brazilian culture and its cities. So the culture of Brazil, the way of living, and some important cities in Brazil. Now, all of that information we are going to get from the passages that we read. You are not expected to already know about Brazilian culture and cities. You're going to read about the cities and the culture, and then you're going to write about what you have read. So this prompt was a great example of step number 3 when it comes to analyzing prompts. We discussed step number 1, identify keywords. We discussed step number 2, ask ourselves what the prompt is asking us to write about. Step number 3 is to decide for yourself, is the prompt asking you to write about something specific or just a topic in general? Now, that's a really important step, boys and girls, and it's something I want you to make sure you do anytime you're analyzing prompts, because sometimes you're going to be asked to write about a very open-ended topic. And when you have an open-ended or general prompt, you can write anything you want about that prompt or topic as long as it is information from the passages. So you have a lot of options when it comes to general open-ended prompts. Other times, the prompts that you're given are going to direct you to write about something very specific. Now, in that instance, you're really going to need to focus your entire essay on that specific topic. Because if you don't, some of your essay is going to be focused on the wrong type of information. So for specific prompts, we can't write about anything in the passage set. We can only write about what that specific prompt is directing us to write about. So let's look at some examples and practice together. I think once you see an example or two, you'll understand what I'm describing when I mean specific versus open-ended prompts. So here we have 2 prompts, prompt A, prompt B. Both are about electricity. One is open-ended, general. The other is specific. So let's read both of these prompts and then we'll discuss them. Your teacher has asked that you write a paper about electricity. Write an informative essay about electricity. Your essay must be based on information from the passages. Okay, so I see the keyword informative. I think the prompt is asking me to write about electricity. That's step 3 of the analyzing prompts that directed me to decide, am I writing about something open-ended or general? Open-ended, general, or specific. I think that this is a very open-ended prompt. I can write about electricity, anything I want about electricity, right? Anything in the passage set that discusses electricity is fair game in my essay. Now let's compare prompt A to prompt B. Prompt B says, write an informative essay on the importance of electricity. Use information from the passages in your essay. So this, boys and girls, prompt B is an example of a very specific prompt. This prompt is asking me to inform my reader about why electricity is important. So for prompt B, if I was to write about who discovered electricity, am I writing about the right thing? Is who discovered electricity explaining the importance of electricity? No, right? So for prompt B, I would really have to focus my essay on informing my reader about why electricity is so important. I couldn't talk about who discovered it or the evolution of electricity because that type of information would be off topic. Let's look at a different example. Actually, we're going to look at a couple of different examples, and we're going to practice analyzing the prompts, and then we are going to discuss the answers together. So this is your first opportunity to try, and you will see in the top left-hand corner of the screen, it says try. Doesn't say prove or show what you know. Just try. It's the very first time that I am asking you to analyze informative prompts, so we're going to make some mistakes along the way, and that's perfectly fine. We'll learn from our mistakes and hopefully not repeat them in the future. Please take out the guided practice activity for lesson 23. A picture of it is on your screen. Now the directions for this activity say to circle the keyword in each prompt. And you have those keywords written down in your writing notebook if you need to refer to them. Then the activity says, explain in your own words what the prompt is asking you to write about. So in your own words means do not just copy the prompt. You should spend about 5 to 10 minutes completing this activity. Please pause this lesson, do the guided practice, and when you're finished, hit play, come on back, and we'll review. All right, welcome back, boys and girls. Congratulations on completing your first practice for informative writing. Now, before we go over the answers, I'm going to give you an opportunity to self-assess your own work. Now, self-assessing is going to look different each lesson depending on what it is we're practicing. For today, self-assessing means to check to see that you have answered both parts of the question. So the first thing I want you to do is to check that you have circled the key word in each prompt. Go ahead and check for that now. Excellent. Second thing, check that you have explained for each question what the prompt is asking you to write about in your own words. Go ahead and check that now. All right, wonderful job, boys and girls. Thank you for self-assessing your work. Now let's take a moment and go over some of the answers, and we'll see how we did. If you made a mistake, please don't be upset. What I want you to do if you've made a mistake is to figure out why you made that mistake. What confused you? And then see if you can pay attention to what you should have looked for. What type of information could have helped you to have answered that question correctly? All right, so number 1 says, your class is researching about eating healthy. Use the information and examples found in the passage set to write an informative essay about eating healthy. So the key word that we're looking for is informative. So hopefully we all circled the key word informative. Now the second part of the question was, in your own words, what are you being asked to write about? So there's not just one correct answer I can give you and you can check if you're right or wrong. You're going to have to make a decision as to whether you think your answer is right or wrong. I'm going to give you some examples though. You could have said, my job is to write lots of information about what it means to eat healthy. Or I am going to write an essay about eating healthy foods. Anything like that, where you state that your purpose for writing is to inform your reader all about what it means to eat healthy, would be an acceptable response. Let's move to number 2. Healthy eating is a constant battle in many people's lives. Many Americans are becoming overweight and having health issues due to bad eating habits. Write to explain a plan that you will present to your class about the importance of eating healthy. Okay, different keyword in number 2. Did you find it and circle it? I bet we did. So the key word here is explain. That directs us to write an informative essay. Now this prompt is much more specific than prompt number 1. Prompt number 1 was pretty general. You could write whatever you wanted about healthy eating. But prompt number 2 is a little more specific. So somehow in your own words, you should have said that you will write to inform your reader about how to eat healthy, to inform them about a plan or a step-by-step method for how to eat healthy. Not just explaining what healthy eating is, but an actual plan, a method, an approach to eating healthy. So number 2 is much more specific than number 1. You have a lot less options. Let's look at number 3. Write an informational essay describing the different ecosystems in our oceans. Use details and information from the passages. So the keyword in number 3 is informational. That lets us know that we are being asked to write an informative essay. Now the next question, in our own words, what are we being asked to write about? Well, we need to inform our reader about different ecosystems in our ocean. So all of the different types or varieties of ecosystems that exist in our oceans is what we should focus our essay on. We are going to give our reader lots of information and facts from the passages about the various ecosystems currently found in the ocean. All right, number 4 says the ocean is never at rest and its view goes beyond the horizon. It's filled with thousands of amazing plants and animals. Write an informative essay explaining why it is important for humans to help preserve our oceans. Use details from the passages to support your essay. So the key word in number 4 is informative. We know we're being asked to inform our reader about a particular topic. So the next question is, what are we being asked to inform them about? And is this a specific prompt or is this a very general open-ended prompt? Well, let's see. It's saying to write an informative essay on why it's important for humans to help preserve our oceans. So this is a very specific prompt. In your essay, you would be writing all of the different reasons, all kinds of information about why it's so important that the citizens of the world right now focus on preserving the marine wildlife that is in our oceans. So this is a very specific prompt, boys and girls. And if we compare it to number 3 for just a moment, you will see the difference between an open-ended prompt and a specific prompt. Number 3 says, write about different ecosystems. So I can name the different ecosystems. I can tell about the type of animals that live in the oceans, right? Number 4 says, explain why it's important to preserve our oceans. Both about oceans, but completely different writing tasks. So you can see why it's so important that you really spend a few moments whenever you're presented with a new prompt, diving deep into that prompt, analyzing it, so that you can truly understand what you're being asked to write about. This is so important, boys and girls, because if we don't understand what we're being asked to write about, then our essay, when we write it, no matter how good it is going to be focused on the wrong topic. And that is going to really penalize our writing when it's being evaluated. So we want to make sure that we always know what we're being asked to write about. And we can determine that using the 3 steps that we've just learned. Look for keywords. Restate in your own words what you're being asked to write about. And ask yourself, is this prompt a general open-ended prompt? Or is this prompt asking me to write about something specific? Promise you, if you do those 3 things, you will learn to accurately analyze informative writing prompts too. So now that we have just completed our first activity in our first self-assessment, we are going to do a reflection. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I would like you each to get an answer in your minds. If you'd like to write down your answer, you may, but you do not have to. If you are in school and your teacher, or if you're at home and your parent wants to ask you to share these out loud, that's wonderful. But it's perfectly fine to just sit at your seats and answer these in your mind. Remember, this reflection is to help you in the future. It's a very important part of the writing process. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what did you do well on this activity? Did you do a good job finding keywords? Did you do a good job restating what the prompt's asking you to write about? Did you do a good job knowing what prompts are open-ended and what prompts are specific? Take a moment and just decide what is at least one thing you think you did really well. All right, did you fix something? Awesome. Second question I have for you. What did you forget? Okay, so find something on this activity that you forgot to do. Don't get mad at yourself. Just bring your attention to the thing that you have forgotten so that the next time you do this, you don't forget it. Go ahead and find something now. Excellent. Now, the last question I want you to ask yourself is, what confused me? So this is something that's very new to us. What part of this activity was confusing? Was it finding the keywords? Was it deciding which types of prompts are open-ended and which ones are specific? Was it being able to restate in your own words what the prompt's asking you to write about? Which part of this process was hard or confusing to you? Go ahead and take a mental note of that now. Nice job, everybody. You have just completed your first growth mindset process. It wasn't that hard, was it? We looked at our work, we evaluated it, we decided what did we do well, we reflected upon it, and we discussed in our own minds what are our strengths, what skills are we learning or have learned. We've also identified what areas do we need to continue to practice and focus on. And hopefully we've even identified some reasons that we got confused or we made a mistake. Now, all of this knowledge about ourselves as writers is going to help us to improve our writing the next time we meet. So excellent job going through the self-assessment and reflection process. Before we move on to our next slide, I just want to let you know, if you see me looking down sometimes, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I have a timer, and I watch the timer whenever I give you a short activity to do to make sure that I give you enough time to get the answers in your mind before I jump to the next thing. So if you ever see me looking down, I'm just monitoring the time for all of us. All right, so now that you have assessed and reflected, it's time to revise. Now, revise just means go back to your work and make it the best it can possibly be. So hopefully you've just discovered a few mistakes or errors. Now is our chance to polish it up and make your work as the best it can possibly be before you turn it into your teacher or parents. You're going to have about 2 or 3 minutes to do a revision. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at the top of the list and you're going to do the top thing first. If you finish that and there's time left, go to the next thing. If you finish that second thing and you still have time left, go to the third thing. So you're not going to get all the way to the bottom of the revision list every day. Some days you'll get farther down the list than others. But regardless, you're going to use your revision time to polish up your work and make it as good as it can get. So the first thing I want you to do is if you forgot something, I want you to add it. The next thing is if you made a mistake, I want you to fix it. And the last thing, if you've added everything you've forgotten and you fixed all the mistakes you found, then I want you to check your work. Check your capitalization. Did you capitalize the first word in every sentence? Did you capitalize proper nouns? Check your punctuation. Do you have the proper punctuation mark at the end of every sentence? Check your spelling. Make sure your words are spelled phonetically, which is how they sound. And last, your clarity. Make sure your writing makes sense for your reader. Often what affects our clarity is we forget words. Our brain goes a little bit faster than our hand. So we have to reread our writing and add in any words that we may have forgotten. So at the end of this lesson, you will spend 2 or 3 minutes revising your work, and then you will turn it into the adult in your life. After that, you will complete your independent practice activity for lesson 23. It is very similar to what you just did during the guided practice. So now you can take all of that information about yourself as a writer that you learned by reflecting and revising, and you can apply it to this activity. Great job today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our first informative writing lesson, and I look forward to working with you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.